The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guests and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of S4, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast or reproduction of this broadcast or podcast without express written consent of S4 is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised.
Because we don't understand how life formed, it is difficult to estimate this probability. The likelihood of a complex molecule like DNA being created by random collisions of atoms in a primordial ocean is fantastically small. In an infinite universe, it would happen in some places, but they would be very far apart. If we want to find advanced intelligent life, our best bet is to listen for radio signals.
Look up to the stars and the forest that surround. Do you see them? Do you hear them? Are they there? SpacedOutRadio.com presents S4 with Forest Moon Paranormal's Eric Cooper and friends. Also, take the time to join the Forest Moon Paranormal Facebook group.
I knew I should have made a left turn at Albuquerque.
Conspiracy, Area 51, Dogman, Ghosts, Cover-Ups, UFOs. The hidden will reveal itself.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go live on S4 with Eric Cooper.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to S4 with Eric Cooper, broadcasting live from the beautiful mountains of Concrete, Washington. Tonight we are having our monthly team show. Tonight on our panel we have Eric Markham, our FMP scientist, R. Keith Andrews, astrologer and alien specialist, and three members of our astral team, Donna Cunningham, Bonnie Smith, and Brent Dodge. Also myself, Corey Reese, and your host, Forest Moon Paranormal Zone, Mr. Eric Cooper.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Wow, we have some major echo going on tonight. It's spring around here, and we actually had snow this morning, but it didn't stick, thank God.
Darn.
Yeah, snow in March. A lot of things going on in FMP. Tonight's the FMP show, and it's going to be an interesting show because I got some ranting to do tonight because, we had some serious issues going on in the group today that are unacceptable and need to be clarified as to what we do not tolerate in FMP, and that's trolls and bashing on people that are asking for help. But we'll get to that. So how's everyone doing tonight?
Not bad at all.
Great.
Pretty good so far.
Good. So we're going to jump right off with how has the month, as Dave likes to say, that was, how did it go? How have we been doing on cases? And what have we been seeing?
Complicated. Aliens more this month. Still working on some curses. Entities.
Okay.
A lot out of the country. A lot out of the country we've worked this month, and a lot of return trips from like older cases from maybe a year ago. You know, needing a little help and tweaking things. You know, coming up along the way because some of them are practitioners, and you know things get attached and they need our help, and they'll just message us and we'll help them with it. You know, a lot of that too.
Mm-hmm.
First China case that I know of.
So why do you think we have repeat cases?
I think it's because people aren't shielding properly, and they just get lax in what they're doing from day-to-day life, and they forget about those things, and just after repeatedly not doing it, it becomes stronger than what they were already shielded for or able to handle to begin with.
So I've got to ask though, the repeat cases we're seeing, are they the same kind of entity, or are we seeing a different type?
Varies. It varies. Some of them are different. A lot of them just pick up little attachments, maybe because they're reading and maybe they forgot to do the whole process right, or, some of them aren't really into it. But it comes after them, sort of, and now and then things will act up, and then they'll get a hold of us, and we'll go in and clear things again, and no demons this month. That's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what I'm seeing is that none of them are as strong as what they were when we first went in and cleared them. That everything's pretty minor now.
Which tells me the client made an attempt and got some stuff right. We just need to work on the strengthening of it.
What I was thinking about, Eric, is most of these are people that came before we had aftercare, and that if some of them keep popping up, it might be a good idea to introduce them to some of the aftercare people to give them a little bit more intense training and some of the things than they may have gotten before.
Exactly. Totally agree. Now, Keith, I want to bring you in real quick. So we haven't seen as much a rise on the alien side as far as cases go. What's your thoughts on that? Are aliens going down, or are they going up and we just haven't heard about them?
Well, they're certainly not decreasing per se, because the messages that are coming through are starting to get really carried away. The problem is that the ones that are hitting, the aliens that are involved, if they're picking somebody up, they're not giving people any warning that they're getting them. It's the big difference between spirit and alien interaction is spirit tends to be there on a repetitive basis. Aliens are much more on a snatch and grab run. It's not like they hang around. So you don't get a lot that people can actually call in for, emergency. Of course, with what I found, what I got wind of the other day, just about a week ago, it's no wonder people are not seeing as much. There was a message that came out over the airwaves, both radio and cell phone, that literally said they are coming, they are not, and it came across on multiple hands and multiple cell phones. The neat part, and this makes sense to some of you, anybody with military, the cycle came in, instead of at the traditional 23 to 25 characters a minute at 500 megahertz, Morse, it came in at approximately 123 megahertz at just over 100 characters a minute.
Okay, have you heard anything new about that? I mean, was that proven to be a hoax, or was there any more since last week? Any more about that situation?
I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard anything about it being a hoax at all.
Okay.
I mean, I'm certain some people are claiming it, but
Right.
if that's a hoax, it's one heck of a well laid out hoax to come in over that many different surfaces.
Thing is, that could be easily done with a computer Morse code program. Just, you got people out there that can overclock their processors and can take a basic software like that and send the cycle rate up to where you could do that.
Oh yeah, it could easily be done.
Did they ever determine the direction of the signal, though? Has anybody ever looked in, okay, did they pick it up? Is it off axis to the receiving dish or, anything like that to validate where it came from?
That I don't know. I haven't been in touch with one chap that I know that has the technology to be able to tell me that. He's been, shall we say, indisposed. So I haven't been able to get a hold of him. And let's face it, I'm not exactly connected to a lot of people that are technologically advanced.
Okay.
But I am waiting to hear back from him on that one.
Yeah, I'd be curious what he found out.
Well, as soon as I know, I'll let you know. That's for certain.
Yeah, because last week when I heard about it, and for our new listeners or anyone that didn't hear the show last week, is when we were first talking about this on Roundtable. There was a Morse code message that basically, in a nutshell, said SOS. They're not from here, essentially, and was a warning that something was coming. The coordinates that came in that message, like I said, came from the direction where the Malaysian aircraft went down, if I remember right.
Yeah, so it was right in that area.
Right.
Which would be intriguing, especially if it turns out that it happened to be the black box.
Yeah, but that was, 3 years ago?
Well, nobody said that time necessarily worked normal. If an impact on that kind of a field were right, it could quite conceivably throw it out long to cycle back in. It takes 3 years to cycle back in. Because all it would take is a minor nudge on the temporal plane, and it'll be right out of sync for a while. Which, by the way, would also explain disappearances.
Okay.
But, like I said, I haven't seen a decrease in
nothing.
In the interactions.
Yeah, nothing current's come out about that one. So what do you see trending as far as the UFO and alien side go, Keith?
Well, there's a lot more focus on the socioeconomic impact that's going, as far as they're concerned, regarding what's going on the global level. Because from their perspective, things seem to have gotten a whole lot more intense as far as the direction that mankind is headed.
Yeah, especially with a $1.3 trillion deficit that we just signed in. Anyway.
Yeah.
Now, why does that not seem like the most intelligent thing to do?
Because it isn't.
Because it's not. Because it's not. And we're not even going to make this a political show tonight, but it's not. And, you know, just the whole state of humankind today is not even talking the politics, not even talking humanity, with violence, with hatred, with division, with, I mean, oh my God, and it's not even just an American thing. It's a global issue. I mean, you know, and I know damn well that the off-worlders have to be going, you know, what the heck.
Oh yeah, from their standpoint, like if you look at it from an evolutionary standpoint, as in civil evolution, this is an extremely exciting time for them, because mankind is going to do one of two things. It's either going to work its way through this disaster, or it's going to write itself off back to the Dark Ages. Okay, and when you're watching a civilization evolve, that is, on a, you know, from their standpoint, very exciting. From the standpoint of the humans involved, not so much.
You know what? We got to stop for a second, because Trip brings up an excellent point. Did anyone else pick up on the positive energy from the kids today? You know, I watched that for about 10 minutes. Not out of disinterest, but because the kids wanted to watch cartoons, and that was fine. But I'm encouraged by our younger generation taking a stand. You know, you have two sides of the soapbox. You have the side of, and half the ones on the soapbox that say kids have no voice. They don't have kids. So they don't worry about school shootings. They don't worry about what happens to kids because they don't have kids and really don't, you know, frankly, give a damn. But kids are people too. They have just as much constitutional right to voice their opinion, to have freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of not congregation, freedom of assembly. There we go. As adults do.
Well, speaking of that, and I know everybody that's...
You're cutting out bad tonight, Keith.
From the military is going to love this, but my son has taken and yeah, so are you. No, my son read World War II and asking about why it happened, what caused it, this sort of thing.
Hey,
like
Keith?
he's taken to watching military history. Yo.
I'm thinking that what I may try to do here is hang up with you here and call you back on your phone. See if that gets any better. Okay?
Okay, doke.
All right, we're going to give that a shot.
So,
well, I'm going to have the unpopular opinion then, because I'm going to say these kids are just being spoon-fed a bunch of BS and being used as pawns and mouthpieces for, you know, powers that they don't understand. I mean, I remember being a kid and thinking Jimmy Carter was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and what a great president he was going to be, and he was one of the biggest disasters of the 20th century. I mean, you know, kids, yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, that's a little better.
They don't know yet. They don't have the wisdom yet. They don't have anything to judge from. They get told this, and they're emotional. You can't blame them. It's an emotional topic, but you know.
But I disagree, because did you watch any of those kids speak? Did you watch any of it today?
I'm not saying they were. Yeah, I would. I'm not saying they're not emotionally. They're not.
I know you're
it's not that they're not emotionally engaged, and it's not that there's not a problem. It's just that those emotions are being channeled by people with an ulterior motive, and they're being used because it's all emotional. There's no rational there's no rationality to it. It's all emotion-based. It's all, we feel bad that this happened. We're emotional in the fact that this crap can happen. But, rationality's being thrown out the window, and it's all tugging on heartstrings and trying to get an emotional response. Because human beings do stupid crap when they're emotional.
True. And I would agree to an extent, but I also saw some of the speeches of those kids. They did their homework, they did their research, they knew what they were talking about. Now, okay, were they spoon-fed some of that? Maybe.
Yes.
I don't think so.
But I think there was some coaching. There had to have been some coaching for some of that.
But you're not giving credit to kids. That's where I stand. You act like kids are stupid. Kids are not stupid.
No, they're not.
Does that mean they have
but then again,
spoons?
they're not. There's some amazingly bright children out there, but they can also be. They can also be amazingly well led, because they don't have the wisdom to. They haven't been where we've been, to the point where they can balance the emotion with the rational.
Makes them more gullible.
Yeah, but sadly, the number of adults that can be led with like they've got a ring in the nose is appalling in today's world. At least the children have a reason for it.
Look, I've seen some of this stuff that's going on right now, and people may not like this opinion, but tough, because I'm going to put it out there anyways. We're talking about right now kids that are a lot smarter than they're being given credit for, and the fact of the matter is that I don't think that they're being led around by their nose at all. If you sit in a school and you have somebody come in and blowing the brains of your friend out next to you, I'm sorry. But you know what? I would be that one standing up there saying, you know what? There needs to be some better controls. And I think that's where they're at right now. And I've got no problem saying that these kids are of their own mind and are thinking the way they need to. Because none of us sitting here this evening, minus a couple of us that have been in the military and maybe seen some of our friends get shot next to us, none of the rest of us here have been able to... Uh-oh, what have I got going? I don't know whose that is.
Well, new engine on me.
Man. Okay, so I just need to check a who's here.
I am.
I'm here.
There.
I'm here. Mine's here.
Okay, I think it's Don I.
Markham got mad and hung up on us.
No.
Oh no! I always expect to be the. I always expect to be the opposite side of the prevailing wind, but
anyways,
in a way, that's just my personality anyway.
Like I was saying here, there isn't a single one of us sitting here that has been sitting in a room where somebody has come in and shot our friend sitting next to us and blew their damn brains out. So, I really cannot say at this point that anybody is leading these kids around by any emotions. You see that happen next to you, yeah, it's going to bring up some emotions, but it's going to spur some thought too. And I think they're all running on the right track, really.
Here, and yeah, we are going down politics for a minute, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. But I was having this talk with my dad today, actually. The NRA started out an outstanding organization, but the NRA today is controlled and led by politicians.
Actually, I think it's the other way around. I think it's actually the other way around. I think it's the NRA that's leading the politicians, to be honest. But
Yeah. That's essentially what I meant. But the agenda of the NRA anymore. And don't get me wrong, I believe in the Second Amendment, but I believe in the Second Amendment to an extent. I don't believe felons need to have firearms. I don't believe mental health, for damn sure, needs to have firearms. You listen to some of the crap the NRA feeds. Oh, everybody, Second Amendment says everybody needs to have a weapon. No, it doesn't.
No.
Well, let's also keep in mind that when the original document was written, we the people didn't mean everybody standing on the ground. We the people, they had a very specific class and a very specific, and it didn't necessarily have to do with race, but it was landed. You had to have skin in the game to be one considered, we the people. There was, and that's not, the founding fathers are all, freedom, freedom. They were very patrician, okay, meaning that they were elites in their own right and considered anybody who didn't own land to basically just be surplus. So we've evolved, and when these people come and say, well, we should all have weapons, no, that's not what they meant at all. They meant a certain class of people that they thought had enough common sense to come in out of the rain should be prepared to defend the Constitution against enemies.
Mm-hmm.
But, that's where the misinterpretation of the Second Amendment comes in. And it wasn't just every rabble have a gun. We were supposed to, everybody had a gun was also supposed to be part of a disciplined, enlightened, paramilitary, basically National Guard.
And that's where all the Second Amendment proponents stop, is that we the people. They don't go beyond it.
Well, they don't realize who the people, what the definition of the people was, and they quit reading at the point about where you have to be responsible, level-headed, and be part of a militia. So both sides are guilty of picking and choosing what part of the Constitution they want to throw in your face.
Yeah. Here's my thoughts on things a little bit. Gun regulations. Let's not even say gun control, because that's really kind of a dirty word. Gun regulations should be revamped, redone, and made better. I think that you definitely need to make sure that felons and the mentally ill don't get a gun, for one, because those are the ones that usually cause the problems. And then I think that basically anytime that you go to get one, you should have to take a training course. I think anybody who's going to buy a gun, you shouldn't be able to just walk in, buy a gun, and not know how to use it. You should have to, if you want to go in and get a gun, you should have to apply for it. You should have to go out and take a training course and learn how to operate that weapon. If you go into the military, you're taught. You have to know. And if you don't know, you don't pass. So I think every person that's going to get one should have to have a training course. And you know what? That just means that every person who can legally own a gun will know how to use a gun, and we'll stop having so many of these issues.
Well, I think a major thing, the person who taught me gun safety was my father. All 6'4", 300 pounds of him, and if you pointed it the wrong way, this ham fist came out of nowhere, knocked you on your ass, and the gun went back into the closet till the next time he decided to take you out and see if you had enough brains to operate one. I mean, what I'm getting at is, I'm overdoing that a bit, but what I'm getting at is there isn't any. You don't have that kind of interaction with a lot of people. Maybe out in the country where people are still, tied to that tradition. But a lot of it, I think, is just, Troufaz wants a new gun. Well, let's get him a gun that'll shut him up and we don't have to deal with him anymore. And he'll be happy. Spoiled children will get what they want without the responsibility part of it.
Not to be a spoil sport, guys, but much as I agree wholeheartedly with the whole conflict of the gun and the regulation and all of that, I'm not entirely certain that there's a ghost out there that touches a gun that you guys have to deal with. And if there is, I want to meet that one, because that one's going to be entertaining.
Oh, Len.
Well, and you know, it goes back to parenting. You know, you hit the nail on the head, Markham, with, your dad taught you gun safety. You know, I had a BB gun at the age of 8 or 9. But that goes back to our era.
Mm-hmm. And think of the crap, you know, if you had a pump BB gun, you had BB gun wars, and the rule was what, 2 pumps? And, you know, sometimes 2 became 3, and sometimes, you know, you got a BB stuck in your butt. But, you know, and then, of course, if somebody told on you, you got your butt whooped and your BB gun wrapped around a tree, and that was it for BB guns for a while. I mean, no, but parenting. I mean, I never really had a BB gun. I still have it. It's an Iver Johnson 410 shotgun. And it was a matter of go out in the woods and we'll go hunting. And if there's nothing to shoot at, you just don't shoot at crap to shoot at it. And after, you know, a few guided, you know, through the woods, I got a 22 for Christmas. And I have to admit, when I got out there and if it moved, I shot it. You know, frogs go, you know, small stuff. And I don't think, under the circumstances, that I should have had a gun. I really don't. I mean, I wasn't killing anything. You know, I wasn't, like, shooting people or anything. But, I mean, it was sort of a natural, oh, there's a chipmunk. Boom. Oh, there's a frog. Boom. You know, it's a natural thing for kids that are kind of out in the woods at 15, you know, just to shoot crap. And I think that should be channeled toward, you know, I should have been, if my dad had found out, he would have wore me out and, you know, shoved that gun up my butt. But, I mean, you know, when you got 20 acres, you can get up to a lot of wooded acres. You can get up to a lot outside of the eyes. But no, there was. It does. It goes back to parenting and instilling instilling a sense that life is not to be taken lightly. Anything's life, whether it's a frog, a toad, chipmunk, whatever. You don't kill it without a reason. And I don't think anything even close to that's being done with children anymore.
No, and see, here's part of the problem is that the bottom line, whether we like to think about it or not, is that the parenting of yore is not there today. You know, we don't have parents that are passing down the knowledge of how a weapon is used or, you know, how to fix a car or anything else like that. It's not happening anymore. So that's kind of where my opinion is at the point is that, you know, because that's not happening, I think that it should be kind of made a mandatory thing where if you're going to buy a gun, you've got to take a class. You know, you've got to learn how to use the gun, how to clean it, how to care for it. You know, make sure that this thing that is not just a toy, you know, it can be a little bit of a toy, but this thing is a weapon. You know, and it can be used for hunting, which is a good thing, or it can be used for killing somebody, you know, if you got to defend yourself, or other things that we don't like. But, you know, people need to know how to use these things, care for them, you know, and be safe with them. And I think that it should be kind of a mandatory thing that people have to go and take a class if they want to own one.
You know, I am not opposed to that at all. I think a national gun safety or, you know, I can't ride my motorcycle down the street without a driver's license. And I have to, in North Carolina, you have to get a specific endorsement. You have to take a specific class, a specific test to own a motorcycle.
Same here.
Well, barring being suicidal maniac, you know, you're not going to kill somebody with a motorcycle. a gun,
Well, the problem
I can walk
is that-
into a gun store and buy an AR-15 if I got the cash and that little piece of paper you fill out that they send right to the FBI and it comes right back. 15 minutes later, I'm putting that AR-15 in the back of my car. Now, I think there's a problem there.
Going and taking tests and stuff like that to have the guns is that people get lazy, and it doesn't matter how well they're taught how to handle anything like that. Eventually, people get lazy. They want to cut corners, and unless you have an annual training for them to have a gun, then it's not going to do any good.
I was going to say.
I don't think it has to be an annual thing. I think what you do is, okay, you take this test, you fulfilled the requirements. You've got the certification, you've got the license or whatever. Then you screw up, and there's no, well, I didn't know that, or, no, you knew it. That's
right.
You were aware of what the rules were. You were aware of what this gun was capable of. It takes the ignorance factor out of it.
Oh yeah, there was a kid that shot somebody out hunting, and I had to go to court for that and show them my curriculum from my hunter safety instructor or my hunter safety class, and show them, I taught that class properly. When you're an instructor and you're teaching things like that, you take responsibility too. So, it's just people get lazy. They don't pay attention. And, it doesn't matter how well you teach somebody, there's always going to be that one that's just not going to follow the rules, no matter how well they're trained. It's the same with driving a vehicle. Doesn't matter how much they learn, there's going to always be that one that's just not going to do what they're supposed to do.
And we are going to have to face that as a society and as a race of people, that there's going to be dumbasses out there. There's going to be outliers. There's going to be outlaws. You can't regulate and make laws against stupidity and evil.
Right.
Trying to is a losing. There's no end game.
The ones that are paying attention. The
well,
ones that
there's
are
no way
paying
to do
attention
that,
and doing what they're supposed to. Right.
But there's no way of finding that out. And a sociopath or a psychopath can go in, take the class, look just as normal as you and me. Look at somebody like, well, I don't know if I'm normal, but anyway, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but like the BTK killer. This guy was serial killer of one of the most evil minds in the 20th century. And he was a deacon in his, people had no idea what darkness is. You can't legislate evil. And there's just part of the reason this is going up, there's more of us. I mean, okay, just if you look at, some of us that were born in the 60s, grew up in the 70s, look how many times, things like this were happening back then.
Spread way around the world.
Maybe not, but not, you might get like somebody was supposed basically things like that happen in bars or not in schools, but I mean,
right.
But there's more of us. And if you take a world built for so many people and you cramp, it's like taking rats. You start putting a bunch of rats in a cage, they start to go crazy and attack each other. And I think at the basis of all this, you've got both parents out there having to work to pay the taxes that we're getting screwed, by. It's just our politicians and the way the structure is designed right now, between overpopulation, economic stresses, we're the rats in the cage that are turning on each other. And you're going to see more of this crap as the years go on because people keep reproducing and, it's a matter of it. It's almost like a flywheel effect. It's going to be keeping itself going until it comes to a head and then, who knows what's going to happen.
Really?
Right.
Well, I can tell you what's going to happen. That's the easy part. I've seen it before. And all we got to do is go back to the Roman Empire when they did exactly the same thing. They just didn't have bullets. But the outcome was the same.
No. They had pointy sticks.
Yeah, they did. And they were much more adept at using them. You know.
The difference between then and now is today we have titanium pointy sticks. Back then they had wood.
But I do agree, and this unfortunately is where we're getting a lot of the crossover between between the laws and what have you, parenting and the paranormal, because so many people are caught up having to work. The guards that used to be in place to stop things like your abductions, like your hauntings, that were held at bay by the family unit has buckled, and that's what caused a lot of the gap.
And the family unit has buckled because, you know, nowadays a family cannot survive on a single person's income. You know, that's where the family unit has collapsed.
Oh, I won't argue with you there. You know, there's an old rule that, you know, when a community is divided, if you're going to have hauntings and that sort of thing take place, a divided community is far easier to get through the door for them.
Oh yeah.
Much weaker.
Well, if you take a look at the cases you guys handled, right? If you compare the number of cases, if you take a look at the size of the community they take place in, where do you find your highest concentrations of them?
Well, and here's the interesting point of it. 90% of our cases, even if they have, you know, dual parents, one of them is a disbeliever. You'll find, you know, our client will say, my spouse, husband or wife, either one, doesn't believe me, which that's the division in the family unit right there when it comes to the paranormal side.
True.
And makes the situation much weaker. Now, if you have both parents, or you know, both adults in the family unit that are both seeing things, whether it's a spirit or an alien or a Bigfoot, or, you know, any of them, you have a much stronger situation.
Oh, very definitely.
Yep.
You know, ironically enough, the believers actually have a better, it's not so much they have a better grip on how it works, but they are far more readily open to dealing with it using, shall we say, alternative methods.
Mm-hmm. Or even supporting, even if you don't believe, at least support them and be there for them and, you know, take it along.
Yeah, exactly.
That shows. At least show that you can support.
Switching up topics for our last few minutes. Brent, how have you been doing on cases?
Well, seems pretty good. And not exactly seeing yet, so I'm hoping I will see, but...
You've been on a couple training missions. How did that go?
Oh, they went pretty good. The first time I went to Lizzie Borden House, I went with a few people, and we came up to the conclusion that, you know, it was Lizzie and her, I forget, like babysitter or whatever it was that was living there also. And she just kind of went berserk and talked her, it was easy to talk her babysitter or whatever into it because she wanted to get back out of the country or something like that and go back to her family or whatever it was. Don't remember now because that was a few weeks ago. But Then the second time I went in with just one other person. We actually went a little bit farther back when the murders happened. And I actually kind of heard a humming, like an electrical humming out, heard it somewhere. And we kind of figured out that it was outside, and we kind of ended up coming to the conclusion that it was Lizzie, but she was kind of being mind-fed to do it or something like that by aliens. So I don't know. I'm not a toss-up on that one.
On that comment. Don't get me wrong.
Usually a humming does have to do with the alien side, not generally the spirit side.
Right. And this was before they even had any kind of electrical devices too, so.
Well, I actually almost projected. I actually felt the surface I was laying on disappear from about my heels up to just about my butt. Like, it was falling away, and I got excited about it happening, and boom, stopped it right there.
Yeah.
I came close.
Overexcitement.
Yeah,
You're getting there.
I was like, oh my God, yeah. Oops. Damn it. So close. Well,
I'm getting there.
Because I have such a hard time with meditation and trying to calm my mind, I am starting Tai Chi lessons. I'm going to start going to Tai Chi and learn meditation and try and, maybe it's 40 years too late, but I'm gonna give Tai Chi and that kind of stuff a try.
It's never too late.
No, not never.
Plus, they have swords, and I like that.
Now, real quick, Don's got an interesting question. Can a cheating spouse bring in paranormal activity?
I believe so.
Yes.
I think that negative energy would attract.
It's that,
they feed off
and it might not even be necessarily. My thinking is maybe it's not even necessarily a bad entity. It's like somebody that the partner that's being cheated on, one of their guardians or one of their family members sees this coming in. It's like, and is there, if nothing else, it attracts them because they're mad that their family member is being screwed over.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, yeah, that infidelity will certainly bridge the gap in a hurry, especially if wind gets to somebody that had somebody on the other side that had a negative run-in because of infidelity themselves. It doesn't even have to be a family member.
Yeah. Like an avenging spirit type thing.
Yeah, maybe not even so. It can be an avenging spirit, but a sympathetic spirit.
Yeah.
Right. So I would agree. And anytime you have a breach in trust, which obviously a cheating spouse would be a breach in trust, you have the weakness. Any kind of weakness, whether it's a breach in trust, something like that, I would say, would bring in a possibility of paranormal.
Yeah, that's why. That's why the first thing to do is check on the, shall we say, logical possibilities before jumping the barrier.
Right.
Okay, I got a kind of a question thing here. I'm gonna kind of throw in here that kind of, as we step back for a second too. You were asking Brent how he was doing some of his new cases, some of the stuff that's others going on. We're talking Astral a little bit here. We have heard some others that have talked about Astral and made some bold statements about you can't get hurt in Astral if you don't believe you can get hurt in Astral. I I would like I'd like our Astral team to kind of touch on that and tell us exactly what can happen in Astral a little bit. And I know that Brent has experienced that just a little bit himself. So I will let you all take that away and run with it now.
Well, let's face it, for the people that think that...
I'll let Brent go first.
Oh, well, what part?
Can you get hurt in Astral?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Well, first one that comes to mind is when you, Don, I got pulled into another dimension and sending energy. I kind of got a little taste of that just the I guess negativity around you, and I was like, ooh, I'm not going near there.
Throw me into the bus, man. I like that. Great. Yes, you can get hurt physically.
Yes, you can.
Yes.
Well, and we get attachments sometimes, and we take care of each other. You know, we generally know it's on there, though. You know, we look out, you know, check each other out. But you know, we get attachments, we take them off each other, even though we do a lot to prevent it. Once in a while, that still happens, and once in a while, we get attached in a way that we have a physical bruise or mark too.
Yep.
It's usually within a few minutes that we know that we have an attachment, and you know, I'm usually hollering at sis, you know, hey sis, I know I've got an attachment, but you know, we're gonna have to pull it off, and it's vice versa, you know. You know, we try to look out for everybody, but sometimes things slip through the cracks, and doesn't matter how well you try to protect yourself, sometimes things just happen, and that's why being a good team, you always take care of each other.
And of course, you grab both hands and clench them up at your head and scream like Zach does, right?
Yeah, right. Well, speaking of Mr. Zach, he has a movie out that's causing some an old customer, an old client of ours problems. They watched it called Devil House, and they were having all kinds of scary things going on. It was a repeat, you know, we went in and, you know, cleared everything. It was just negative energy, but, you know, his crazy stuff. I said, don't watch it, okay? You could have anything.
Yeah, I know we can't say I can't say what I really want to say about him, but
I can read your mind.
You don't have to be a psychic. You don't have to be a psychic to understand where
Well, and I'm going to add to that, though, because I think where the confusion comes from is the difference between remote viewing and astral. And for new listeners, remote viewing, you can't get hurt. Because remote viewing, you are not actually on site. Remote viewing is a mental projection, not a physical projection. Remote viewing is basically consciously living your mind. And you can't interact. You only view. It was used for spying back in the 60s and 70s.
Now, did Ingo Swann claim that now that's a controversial figure, I realize, but didn't Ingo Swann say that there was off-world technology out there that was capable of detecting a remote viewer and could trap them?
And the answer to that is not exactly. There is some out there that can track it, but they have to use it's not a piece of technology unless you call abduction technology. They can come and grab them, but they don't grab them with the same technology they're tracking with.
Okay. So Ingo was kind of embellishing. I think that was the problem with Ingo Swann. He had things that he was 100% right on, but then he would kind of go, like some of the guests we have, you'll be right up, following along with what they're saying. Yeah, that resonates true. And then they'll come up with some complete baloney that they've pulled out. They've obviously pulled out of their butts, and there goes the whole credibility thing. And I think that was one of the problems with Ingo Swann. He just didn't know when to stop.
Yeah, unfortunately, it boils down to lack of proof does not prove lack.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, now Dan's bringing up there's an exotic technology to find the signature of an individual. Have you guys heard of this?
Oh, yeah. That's existed for a long time.
Yeah. So we've actually had that as just regular old run-of-the-mill humans for a while.
Okay. Okay. Let's see here.
Real quick, Cooper. For the new viewers, for the new listeners that don't know about, you mentioned in remote viewing, you can see, but can you hear as well?
Oh God, let me think. I don't believe so. I'd have to research that. That's a good question though. The research I've done on remote viewing, they are only viewing, and what's interesting is when they were viewing Russia, other remote viewers could detect them. Could they communicate? To my knowledge, no. I'll have to research that, and we'll talk about that in another show.
Oh, okay.
But I don't have an answer for that one.
Okay.
Good question, though. You got me thinking.
Well, the thing is, if a remote viewer is handy, spotting a remote viewer coming in is relatively easy. Because if you know what you're doing, you know what you're looking for. But remote viewing itself, essentially, no. Now, there are remote viewers that can hear, but those remote viewers are clairaudience themselves. It's got nothing to do with remote viewing, per se.
Okay. That makes sense.
All right, ladies and gents, it is time for us to take a break. So, when we come back from break, we will continue our monthly team show. Tonight on our panel, we have Eric Markham, our FMP scientist, R. Keith Andrews, astrologer and alien specialist for Force Moon, Astral team members Donna Cunningham, Bonnie Smith, and Brent Dodge. Also myself, Corey Reese, and Eric Cooper of Force Moon Paranormal. Join us every Saturday night at midnight. You can find us on Spreaker.com, SpacedOutRadio.com, and The Fringe FM. Check out Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott 5 nights a week, and Spaced Out Weekend with Joe Roop Saturdays, and Elizabeth Anglin on Sundays with Cosmic Passport, all at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Also check out The Fringe FM with shows like Lighting the Void with Joe Roop and a plethora of other good shows. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and I want you to come on a nightly journey. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, every Monday through Friday, you can come hang out with me and the other space travelers. We have it all from Carl the Alien bouncing on by to those misfit gnomes causing havoc. It's 3 hours of fun and entertainment on those topics the mainstream really doesn't want to touch. Come get all paranormal with us at SpacedOutRadio.com, and together, my friends, along with our resident guitar god Bumblefoot, we own the night.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories. From alien encounters to the latest conspiracies, you won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Would you like someone you can trust to look into it? We have just the place. The SOR Sightlines Report is the place for you to find answers. Whether it's Bigfoot, UFOs, Dogman, ghosts, aliens, or anything strange, the Sightlines Report will get you connected with one of our expert researchers to find out what's going on. All of your personal information is kept 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines Report, a place for you to find the answers you need. Only at spacedoutradio.com.
Welcome to Spaced Out Saturdays with me, Dave Cruz from Beyond the Strange. Our weekly feature on spacedoutradio.com will take you around the world discussing everything from the paranormal to the latest conspiracies from the top guests in their fields. We won't leave any story uncovered. Spaced Out Saturdays at spacedoutradio.com starting 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
It's Cosmic Sundays with me, Elizabeth Anglin, in Cosmic Passport. Let me take you down a 3-hour spiritual journey where we will get into everything from ET contact to Psychic Sundays. It's a journey of listening and learning together with some of the best professionals in their fields. You can tune in to Cosmic Passport at spacedoutradio.com every Sunday starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed on tonight's show by tonight's hosts and guests are not necessarily those of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Saturdays, Spaced Out Sundays, or spacedoutradio.com. Listener discretion is advised. And now back for hour number 2, we have Corey Ruiz, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal, and S4. You can find Forest Moon Paranormal on Facebook. And for more information on S4, visit spacedoutradio.com. And now, here's Eric Cooper and Corey Ruiz.
Welcome back. For those of you just joining us tonight, we are talking all things FMP team. On our panel, we have Donna Cunningham, Bonnie Smith, Brent Dodge, R. Keith Andrews, and Eric Markham. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back.
Thank you, Corey.
Hi, how you doing?
Glad to be here. Always fun. And yes, we did talk politics, and like Corey said, this is a team show. We talk about anything the team wants to talk about. That's what we talk about. So if it comes down to politics, hey, we talk politics. And it's interesting because, like Markham was saying, we're all friends on the team. So when it comes down to it, we have different views, points of view and opinions and whatnot, but we don't get in fights. But you look in the chat room, oh my God, the division.
We're all okay with each other's differences.
It's crazy. It's just crazy.
I'm ignoring everyone right now. I'm focused on this. I'm staying out of there.
So,
yeah.
what's going to be interesting, because, we're going to have a Sky Watch this summer, and we're going to have, some Bigfoot expeditions and whatnot this summer. And so what kind of Bigfoot experience has anyone got? Anything new on the Bigfoot side?
It won't be Bigfoot.
Best I can say is I smelled one.
I'm ready to snoop around and find one, but I haven't had any in my own life yet,
You would find one.
I'm still trying to call a mountain lion down from the mountain behind the house. Like, kitty, you're gonna meet me. So, yes.
Well, you need to set up a gifting site.
Yeah.
That's what you need to do. Yep.
Yeah. I would love to see one in a while.
I'm not quite certain how the Skywatch is going to work as far as finding Bigfoot goes, but it would be interesting to find it that way.
I want to see a flying Bigfoot.
Then watch this, grab one and then the astral plane and take it to another dimension.
There you go.
Oh, God. I get stuck.
Most likely me on her back.
All right. So
maybe we'll see some UFOs though at that Skywatch. It sounds like a real fun thing. I'm looking forward to it.
It'll be fun because the place we're going is beautiful for one. Is very open as far as being able, obviously you need to see the sky for a Skywatch. So it's in the mountains. Ideally, yeah. So it's in the mountains. It's got excellent sky range and whatnot. Has a nice
maybe we'll get to see some ships that day or night.
Well, it's up here in Concrete too, so
can't wait for it.
Yeah. So we still need to. We still need to. Well, that's a good thing.
I know. I'm really very lucky about that.
Otherwise, because we don't want you to be a case.
I already was a case.
Sorry, you're already.
But it wasn't aliens. It wasn't aliens that brought me to you.
So, now you know what? That would be cool because Tripp just brought up the point. Couldn't the Skywatch be countrywide? And that's a good idea. We could schedule the Skywatch on the same day. Just put out the date and have everybody go out and see what everyone sees. Everyone take the cameras out, and we'd have a Skywatch.
Good idea, Tripp.
We'd actually wind up having. It'd be hard to have a global Skywatch because our Australian crew. It's like 4 in the afternoon when we're our nighttime, so they wouldn't see much for the stars.
Yeah, then we could have a team show and everybody could bring up what they found or saw, or on their Skywatch night.
Exactly.
That would be cool.
And Sam's talking about Skyping it. Yeah, that'd be have everyone do their video cams wireless, so you have a live video feed of everyone's Skywatch. That'd be cool.
Yeah, but for me to do that, I'd have to go and get a video cam.
Well, the Skywatch isn't until July, so you got a few months.
Oh, great.
All right, so Levon, for about the 5th time, wants to hear Bonnie's explanation of what happened with you and him during your party. He wants to know what it could have been.
Excuse me? I didn't hear that.
Bonnie?
I didn't hear that question. I have a client that's messaging me kind of in dire straits. So could you please repeat that? I'm sorry.
All right. Levon wants to know what your explanation could have been during a party that you had. And what it could have been.
Oh, when I went to the party and was attacked, basically it was a human sort of thing, I think, that happened there. But it does leave you open for paranormal attacks. That's why I called in my reinforcements and family of Astral to protect me, because I knew something was wrong.
Yeah, I think he was just sensitive to her call because she was tagging about everybody. She was kind of in a panic, and I think he just since we've worked on a few cases there, that he was just sensitive to her call at that time and was able to pick up on it and try to help her get through that situation.
Yeah, he seems to pick up on my energy. Levon and I do some healing with him sometimes, so our energies are, mixed, so he knows my energy. And I'm pretty sure he's got some abilities and able to pick that out and know when something's wrong, because he did know. He was completely accurate.
Okay. So what do we see in the forecast with the paranormal as far as the team goes?
Well, I see a lot going on. I mean, it's getting bigger and bigger, and we're getting it out there more and more. We're doing work all over the world, and the more we get it out, the more people we can help, and educate. I feel like we're going in a good direction. Paranormal is going to keep happening. And people just don't know where to go to get help. All they think about is that Zach on TV and people, what they see, because they don't have that education yet. But we're going to get it out there to them. And people, please be careful who you astral with. If you meet strangers or healers and things, we're getting several cases coming in of people that are getting mind controlled by these people who lured them in. And they lure them in and they get into their head, and then they can't get them out. And they actually stalk them. We have cases right now we're working on. And several of these have been well-known people who have temples and are healers around the country. And one's in California and one's in Dublin, Ireland. People are having real problems from this, so be careful. Do not trust everybody to get into your head, and that you can't just astral just because you have that ability. If you can't protect yourself, don't trust everybody out there. I'm seeing a lot of this.
Yeah.
It's bad news. It's hard to break.
We'd rather educate people and teach them what they need to know to protect themselves in a paranormal situation than to have them as a crisis unit for us, I mean, that's not something that's fun for them, and it's something that we hate to see as well. But, we would much rather people be educated and be able to, shield themselves and not have these situations. But we're here for anybody that does need us.
Yeah. Exactly. Which brings up our next. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I was just going to say real quickly, and be careful of who you may piss off, because you never know who has the abilities, and they can even attack you without you knowing it.
Absolutely. Happens all the time to people. We're harder to get to. I mean, we have multiple layers of things going on to protect us, but your average people don't.
Yeah.
And they just think this is fun. I can do this. I can trust this person, and boom, I've had it happen to me when I started out. Start talking to someone and I'm under attack all of a sudden.
Right. And
I have learned.
You even know it. It happens so quickly that, you think you're fine 1 minute, and, the next minute, the whole world has turned upside down. You just really got to be careful what's going on.
Yep. Vigilant with it.
Which brings me to my next rant, because today was unacceptable. We have several moderators in FMP, and we don't always get to vet or check out new people that come into the group. And unfortunately today we had a client that got attacked by several people. And, you know, if you're in a paranormal group and you don't believe in the paranormal, or you're a troll, why the hell are you in a paranormal group?
To be a troll.
Yeah.
I actually PM'd that person. I won't mention names, but I PM'd them personally. Because you stuffed the chat, I had a few things to say.
Well, had I seen that, I'd have objected. I think I've got moderator on there too. I would.
Yep.
That's the problem when these things come up on the weekends. I'm at work and I don't have a chance to do my due diligence on the site. But no, you don't attack.
No, I hit the be gone button.
There were several of them, and you know, unfortunately, we had a couple that actually left because you know they saw the way people were acting towards someone that was asking for help, and you know, thought FMP was just another one of them groups that attacks people, and well, that's just none of us were around the computers at the time.
Yeah, we were moving too today, but you know what? Our members really, a lot of stuff, like I said, put them in their place. Got a hold of us to make sure.
I mean, I belong to some other paranormal Facebook pages, and if I see somebody on there saying, I need help because, I refer them to FMP. So if that's one of my referrals that got crapped on by some troll, you know, God help that troll if I ever find them.
I know. Yeah. I actually messaged them, PM'd them, because that just went all over me what she did to that person. And I couldn't reply. I couldn't say nothing in the group. So I said, she needs to hear something from somebody from this group. You know, how horrible and inhumane it was.
And that's what's good. The client didn't take it to heart. I'm in touch with the client now. So
yeah, she finally messaged me too back. I messaged her too. Thank goodness.
Yeah, she messaged me too.
Good.
We let her know we do care. I mean, this is what we do, and we take it seriously.
There's a situation to be handled. But people need to understand, FMP does not stand for harassment or attacking of anyone in FMP, whether they're a client or not. We're not like other groups. Other groups allow it, and we don't. My patience level for humans is very, very short.
Yours is longer than mine is.
Well, I got in there.
That's something we all have in common.
Yeah. I got in there, I mean, just as soon as I knew about what was going on. I mean, Donna gave me the heads up, and I went in there and saw it, found the person, gave him the boot, and then I put, you know, a little reminder message on the page that said, hey, you know, just a reminder, especially for those of you that are new, you know, we don't allow this, and if you're going to do it, you're going to be gone, period.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Now, Markham, I want an update. I want an update on the spirit trapping, conjuring group that you found.
Oh,
I am still up in the air as to whether these people really believe that this is happening or whether it's just a very elaborate role-playing, you know, like steampunk. I haven't received mine yet. So, you know, I have been taking baselines where I plan on, you know, doing the unboxing or whatever you call it. I've been taking my baseline readings, and I noticed that, my first one was at like 4 in the morning, 3, it was after a show, so it was about 3:30 in the morning. And I had a little bit of a waver between 5 and 6 on my tri-field meter. The next day around, so it must have been around 4:30 or so, because it's just before I went into work, I noticed that was up. It was up a little bit, like 6, 7. So does anybody that works with tri-field meters know what could be causing that slight deflection?
Well, the slight deflection could simply be, the Earth changes on a regular basis. Just because, you can get solar flares, the sun, can change how the magnetic field works. You can get slight deflections just from normal Earth changes.
Okay, so the difference between being dark or, it being daylight, midday, so to speak, as opposed to 4 a.m, nothing going on type thing.
Yeah, I mean, simply the fact that the sun's facing you versus it not facing you could be enough to change the magnetic field enough to have a slight change. Just in
I'll have to keep track of it and see what, see if it does it every time.
Yeah.
I just started.
And Tripp's bringing up what was the weather conditions. I'd be tracking your weather conditions at the same time as you have any kind of spikes.
The barometer was almost exactly the same. The difference was rising and falling. It was like 20, 29, 32. I've got a Casio Pathfinder watch that has a barometer and all that crap built into it, and I'm using that as my standard that I use, I gather my data with for the time being.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the difference is the first time the barometer was rising, the second time it was falling.
Okay, and Dan's bringing up even from electric usage surge neighborhood wide. So, and you couldn't completely, you wouldn't exactly know if there were power surges or whatnot. So
I do remember taking note that my furnace was running at the time. So,
okay.
And I mean, it's not in that room, but it may be drawing current through there. So,
right.
Well, I'll just keep collecting data. I just didn't know. Like I said, it was the difference between fluctuating from 5 to 5.5 to 6 to fluctuating to 6 to 7. I mean, it wasn't like it was spiking from 5 to pegging needle type thing. It was just a little bit. And there's always a little bit of a deflection. It's not a steady reading. It's just a little, it's got just a little twitch to it. Then I'm living in a home that's it's either a year younger or a year older than me, and I'm in my 50s, so.
Probably with original wiring.
Well, that part, actually, I have to correct myself. The part I'm living in was added on in the 70s, I believe. So, it's probably a little bit different. Good question. Tripp's asking if I had located any ley lines. And no, I don't think there's any in the area, but finding a reliable ley line map seems like you can find as many different ley line maps as there are websites saying they have ley lines. Everybody's got a different version.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Speaking of that, we need to start working on technology to identify ley lines. I'm still curious if there's spikes where ley lines cross. And
well, that's one of the things you even got to look at with ley lines is the man who originally posited the theory about ley lines. It was nothing to do with Earth energy, or it was migratory routes that people used to get from one place to another. And then it kind of got taken over by the New Agers, or it got merged with another tradition, and then all of a sudden, instead of being tracks that people use to migrate, all of a sudden it's these bands of energy that go around the Earth. So I think the main thing we were going to have to do is separate fact from, take both of these traditions, sieve out separate them from each other. Get the ley line that is the energy source and the ley line that is the migration source, and separate them completely. And then we'll have a place that we can look at and see if there's some kind of, is there a detectable energy? Or is it somewhat like the migratory paths the birds follow? It was something that there is an energy there that maybe subconsciously we picked up, and that's why we migrated along those paths. Or it may have just been, hey, that was the easiest way to get from point A to point B. There is so much, that's why I need to win a lottery, folks. I could spend the rest of my life researching stuff like this full time,
Yeah.
We need to play the lotto. That's what we need to do.
Yeah, we did that for a while. We need to work on that again.
Yeah, everybody find one of us that's going to be the win, and everybody concentrate on them getting the.
Well, rest assured, I'm the one that wins. I'm luckier than everybody because it means I found the winning ticket.
Right. And Yvonne's asked what ley lines are, so I think Trippin's got the best explanation. Is it's basically just Earth's energy lines, and what we're trying to kind of show is you've got hot spots where UFOs are seen the most, where Bigfoot's seen the most, where missing people come up with the missing 411 research. But my curiosity with ley lines or energy lines of the Earth is if these points that intersect are actual hotspots based on these ley lines.
That guy that did the research, what is it, the 38th parallel? There's like a band that goes across, I think it's the 38th parallel. Somebody can Google that and correct me if I'm wrong, but going across the United States, there's a certain area that has the most cattle mutilations, most UFO. It's a. If you look at his data,
parallel.
Yeah, it's just this. It's almost like looking at statistical. There's dots on activity, very heavy activity on both sides of that line, all the way across the country.
Roswell and the Giza Pyramid or Giza, and I mean all the way around there. There's places, like I said, both sides, all the way around that parallel.
So I'm wondering if the ley lines are some kind of radiating energy from that, because there's obviously something along that line. And if you look at how if you put a magnet, like a bar magnet down and throw iron filings, you can see where the magnetic waves created by that magnet are. So I'm almost wondering if we're not looking at something similar on a planetary scale.
And then you have to draw.
And then you have to think, and maybe Keith can answer this, is if other planets have similar concepts or similar lines.
Yep, they do. And just to make matters more complicated, there are ley lines that run between planets.
Wow,
that makes sense. That'd be a good that'd be a good explanation for how astrology works.
In a lot of ways, it is. I mean, when I've talked earlier, on other shows, when I've talked about the neural net, that's what the ley lines are. Okay, but it's not ley lines aren't exactly a straightforward grid, as it were. I mean, if you take a look at a net, when you build a fishing net, they're pretty equidistant along everything until you put something heavy in them, and then all of a sudden the lines get distorted. Same thing happens with the ley lines. They're absolutely where they belong to start with, but as populations grow, as things change, they get pulled out of alignment on occasion. Net result, not only do you have the increase in the paranormal activity, but you have the increase in the tectonic and planetary instability. Which makes things a little more complicated, but a whole lot more fascinating to try and track down if you're not on the receiving end of the negative side of it.
Mm.
I hope that
so
makes sense.
So my question would be, with the ley lines between planets, would that be where the wormholes are, or where they jump?
More to the point, the wormholes can pull a ley line off track.
Okay.
So are they using the? I had to step away for a moment, so I may have missed this answer here. But are they using the ley lines between planets as a, I guess, like a rail system or some kind of transit system?
Essentially, that is correct. That's one of the many methods they use. I mean, you're looking at, well, quite frankly, the quantum magnetic flux, which works off of biomagnetics. Yes, we're
kind of like a rail
really
system.
Odd laying. Try that again. We're certainly going into a very advanced form of telemetry readings and what have you, because you have to use triphasics to actually calculate where things are going to end up. And we have dead silence.
No, I'm just thinking if these things are, this would work out once you learn how to use these as guideposts or as, basically as like a monorail system, because everything is in motion. If these ley lines connect the different planets as everything is moving, you don't have to worry so much about, okay, where's planet X right now? You get on the corresponding rail line and you go.
Exactly. It avoids that neat little annoying thing, for the most part,
navigation.
Caught in a wormhole, or worse, in a black hole. And black holes are a lot of fun too. You can get through them, but I will tell you it's not a good idea. But no, the ley lines, the funny thing about it is, if you understand what you're doing with them, much like taking a slingshot where you've got two hotspots joined, you can go to the midpoint and use the flexibility in that line, essentially like a slingshot, which is where that's where you end up with the real, where you can end up with speed that goes even faster than wormhole running.
That's what I was thinking.
Kind of like running a luge.
I was always thinking, okay, you've got quantum entanglement. Is there a civilization or somebody out there who's figured out how to? Okay, they might have to make the first trip at sublight or at a multiple of the speed of light, something, but they start with a particle or, somehow they use quantum entanglement between home planet and destination. Okay, you might have to take the long way around first, but then once you have established this, twinned or this quantum link, it's just like walking from one room into the other after that, isn't it? Or has anybody come up with that yet?
Oh, they have come up with it. It's actually quite a fascinating way of doing it. Yeah, and it can be done very easily. Okay, that's wrong. It can be done very easily once you understand it.
Well, I'm going to say, if a talking monkey without a physics degree like me can come up with the idea using quantum entanglement to travel, I'm sure that an advanced species that actually knows something about that, has come up with the idea and done something with it.
Well,
I would hope.
Well, it's funny because I got word. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and I mentioned to them that Stephen Hawking had just about figured it out, but he still needed a few years, and then he went up and died. And talk about a loss to mankind. But turns out that 10 days before he passed, he had just completed co-authoring a paper mathematically explaining using the physics side of things how the multiverse is real, but they won't be able to prove it until they can develop deep space probes to get out and get the right readings.
Kind of like, needing that experiment to prove that Einstein wasn't all wet. It had to have the gravitational lensing experiment during the eclipse to prove that happened. That was
exactly.
You have to have the practical thing to show that the equations aren't ephemeral BS.
Well, the funny part about it, I ran into this problem way back when I was a young kid, trying to explain to the doctors how healing works and how the triple helix was necessary for them to get it. And it wasn't until 25 years later that they found the triple helix. We've got the same problem here, where trying to explain how this stuff works. When we talk about the speed of light, well, there's a shock wave that goes ahead of the speed of light and actually outruns it, that you can tap into, that you can use instead of light travel to get ahead. Because much as light is quick, it's not the fastest thing out there. Because don't forget, if it's traveling faster than light can't see it.
So I've got a question for you. Do you know if Sam G brings up the point about CERN and how they experiment beyond what we know? Does anyone know if Hawking's had anything to do with CERN? Did he ever do any work with CERN?
My understanding is he had some discussion, or more to the point, that they approached him, and he basically told them where they should go. Because they were so far behind as far as I understand it. Now, I may well be wrong on this, but from my understanding, he was so far ahead of them that he couldn't get them to open their eyes in his perspective.
So I'm going to take a jump here with Hawking.
We'll miss you.
Hawking's mentioned about the negative aliens and how humans aren't prepared for what they're going to experience. What did Hawking's experience?
Well, Hawking's undoubtedly had a bad experience. That's the one area where he and I had a very definite difference of opinion, because he went the route essentially of going, there is so much danger in dealing with them, they're all bad news, and you just can't effectively do that. That's like saying every human or every specific color of human is a bad individual. You just can't go there. And it's the one comment he made that didn't make any functional sense to me.
Well, he was going by the standard anthropological model that that we have seen proven out in our own history time and time again, that when the more advanced civilization meets the less advanced civilization takes it up the wazoo. But I don't think he took into account that perhaps as a species evolves, maybe a space, and I'm not saying, and you've said it as well, not everybody who can travel here is an enlightened being. But I would say that there's a point where you know what you're doing. You haven't ushered a primitive species into maturity. You know, this isn't the first rodeo, so to speak, and they know how to handle it. And I don't think he was too nuts and bolts. With Stephen Hawking, it was, this is what we see, this is what the evidence shows, this is what is most likely to happen.
Yeah, and I do agree with you there. I mean, he was working with what he had. The major fail-safe, the major flaw there was he was trying to understand it based on the only thing he could understand it with was human intellect and human patterning. So, I mean, it's not that he was wrong per se, but like any computer, garbage in, garbage out.
Right. What his calculations were based on, what his opinion was based on, wasn't necessarily the whole picture, but the information he had to go on, the conclusion he came up with, was the only conclusion you could have.
Absolutely agree. Right. I mean, I've seen enough civilizations come and go to know that the patterning is actually reasonably accurate until you get into that swap over where you take a race that has evolved past that themselves, are aware that this is a side effect, and can subsequently counteract it before it becomes the problem. That's where the missing information comes in. You know, if you know that your interaction is going to destroy a civilization if you're not careful, and you're interested in keeping said civilization alive, you'll go out of your way to avoid the problem.
Hence the prime directive, non-interference, very light touch type thing that apparently, I know a lot of people, and I have said it myself, if they're up there and they're that concerned, why the hell don't they help us out? And, I can see where it's sort of okay, they helped us out, now we can screw stuff up and we call on them and they'll help us out again.
Well,
or have they done that enough times that they've said, no, not this time?
Well, here's a question for you, and this one actually is straight to you, Grace. But you're a scientist. Obviously, that's not the question. If somebody were to come along, you've got a curiosity streak that is just mind-blowing, which is great. But if somebody were to come along and just give you the answers to your problem, what would happen to your drive?
I think with me, I've got more questions than they could possibly have answers, and if they gave me all the answers, I would find more questions. I would find more questions. I just don't, but I understand what you're getting at. It's like, okay, if Beethoven wasn't deaf, would he have striven to create the Ninth Symphony?
Oh, hello.
Yeah, I thought I was making somebody laugh, and I was trying to be dead serious. Oh, but I mean, I think there's cases where, I don't know, I think that's one of the essential sparks that humanity has. You give us an answer, and we find we're not happy with it. Yes, we've got this answer, okay, but how does that apply to this? And not everybody does it, but there's enough of us on this planet that have that ever-questing mind, and we're not going to be satisfied. Yes, we got the answer. And there are some people that's like, I got my answer. Yeah, I do that with music sometimes. I know exactly what you're saying. I'll find, like that, I'll be working on a song and I'll find that essential lick, like say the little lead break in the song Shambhala. Well, hell, I'm not interested in messing with it anymore. I found that lead break. that's done. Let's move on to something else. And in some ways.
The other thing, and this is just simply a reality that I've run into with kids, and especially with the educational system. If you don't get the opportunity to learn how to do these things yourself, you're not going to be able to do the more complex. I mean, you look at the number of kids coming out of school that cannot add.
Can't spell, can't add, yeah.
The other stuff.
Well, I look at, our model for how things can go wrong is basically Star Trek. Okay, you have the Ferengi who get out there, and they're just basically, every crooked merchant you've ever known, a whole planet of them with warp drive. Then there's a race called the Pakled who are, Forrest Gump with warp drive. So there's got, they acquired they acquired what they had through either scavenging or, they didn't earn it. They came across it in a way that, they don't have any skin in the game and they're not prepared. And I think we run into the danger of, give us warp drive. Well, yeah, good. Then what? I mean, we can't get along with people in our own, look at the chat room tonight with the different opposing views. We're going to get out into the universe and find completely alien civilizations that we don't even know how to say hello to, or if they have a concept of time, hello, kiss my butt, what? We are not prepared for expansion past our own planet at this point.
Right. Humans aren't ready to evolve until they get past their own differences.
And I don't think we're ever going to get to the point where everybody is going to be on the same sheet of music, but we've got to evolve to the point where we don't go strapping C4 to ourselves and blowing up innocent people who weren't concerned with our argument. It's going to have to be we agree to disagree and, let's get on with it.
Yeah.
But not this.
It seems like so hard for people to do that, accept other people's religions, accept their anything, if they're decent and they're not harming people. Everybody just can't accept everybody else for who they are, it's sick.
Yeah, it's become just you either agree with me or I'm going to take this pointy stick and run you through with it. And I don't, where did that come from? I mean, how
I guess
did
it's always been, but there's so many
that
people
so
doing
much.
it, like you said. I hate that,
It's just, it used to be, okay, if we take, and I'm not running this into politics, I'm just using a political example. Tip O'Neill was as diametrically opposed to Ronald Reagan as they could be, but they genuinely had a respect and they liked each other. So after the grandstanding in the public eye, it was like, okay, what do you really want? They found a common ground, or they made, and not necessarily found, they made a common ground to work from. And things progressed. Whether you agree or disagree with how it happened, there was progress made. That spirit of trying to make a ground to work on is gone. It seems to be gone within our species. It's my way or the highway, and it's prevalent. There's just no willingness, and I don't mean even compromise, because there's going to be times there is no compromise, but you have to make a ground, or you've got to come to the table and at least be willing to admit this is where, there's going to have to be a point. Where, hey, there he is.
There he is. No, real quick, because we're running out of time. But Yvonne has a question, and I know Keith's probably the best to answer this one. But aren't we on the 7th or 8th round of Earth survival?
That would be one of the biggest misconceptions possible.
Okay.
Ultimately, no. Earth itself only gets one run, as it were. Yes, it does get faster and faster in its cycle. But the Earth, as a planet, only gets the one run. What's happening is people are slowly getting their civilization back up to a functional level. And this is, I think, if I've got my timing correctly, this is about the 4th time that mankind has gotten back to this point. Right. We might be working on it.
Seems to be, I've always kind of thought that we get to this point, we split the atom, and then we nuke ourselves back into the Stone Age and have to start from scratch.
Ultimately,
there's
correct.
so much out there that points to that. So many of the old, the old texts, I keep going back to the Hindu texts. It's like,
yeah.
I mean, it describes perfectly a battle between, superpowers. And the rest of it just sort of gets squashed.
And ultimately,
and for any listeners that would like to look that up, that would be the Mahabharata. And don't ask me to spell it.
I can spell it, but I can't pronounce it. You can pronounce it and can't spell it.
I was going to say, you do a good pronounce now.
Perfectly there.
I can tell you this much. If you Google Muhabbarata, you'll get close to the Mahabharata. and that's
it'll get you there eventually.
Exactly. So to clarify, it's not the Earth's survival; it's civilization survival that they're referring to.
Bingo.
Yeah, I think it's like Earth is going to. That's like the thing, save the planet. The planet's not in danger.
Right.
We're going to make it to the point where we can't live on it. It's kind of like save the people. I mean, the Earth will keep going, and the cockroaches will keep going, and hopefully the cats will keep going long after we annihilate each other.
Right.
But,
I like to use the analogy of the Earth is a living organism of which the humans are fleas. If the fleas get over, if the fleas overrun the living organism, the living organism is going to shake the fleas off. That's ultimately what's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, like the whole Gaia concept that when that first came out, I thought it was just feel good nonsense, but the more I delve into physics, the more I understand about quantum physics and the connectivity of everything, the more I think you can't really write that off. There seems to be an interconnectedness. And
see, this is what I like about you, Preacher. You're a true scientist that actually has an open enough mind to look at reality beyond what your training has taught you. And that's a rarity amongst the scientific world. Quite frankly.
I mean, I hope the world's not as dull as science makes it out to be. I mean, I just, oh my God, how horrible would that be? No, I mean, you look at, I don't know, I see a lot of stuff happening that back when I was younger, I'll say back when I was a kid growing up, the conventional wisdom was animals do not reason. And it was, I can remember in 6th grade arguing with my teacher. It's like, I don't believe that. I see evidence of problems. No, animals do not have the capability of, thinking. Well, they've proved that's wrong. You put some basic tools on the ground and present a crow with a treat that he can't get just by walking up and pecking. He will take that assembled crap you've thrown on the ground in front of him, and he will figure out how to get that treat out of the box you've trapped it in.
Exactly.
Animals can't think. I see my cat think. The demon cat that's in my avatar. I see him reason things out. He knows where the catnip is, and it's, some of that's smell, but some of it's he remembers me seeing me put stuff there. He knows when he's doing something he shouldn't, and he's getting away with it. Animals are not dumb strictly on instinct. I think we have to look at the idea of there's a universal
continuity
of intelligence. There's this. I keep saying I've posited this before. There's this broad wave consciousness that permeates everything, and depending on where you are along your personal evolve, whether you're no matter what kind of animal you are, is where you pick up, how you pick up, and how you can utilize all that information that's out there.
Well, that's the whole thing. This is why I refer to that thing called the neural net, because that's what you tap into to get answers that don't make sense, and then you go back and try and figure out how to get to them in the first place. I've always done my problem solving backwards. Come up with the answer first and then figure out how the heck I got there.
I do that a lot. Yeah. It's like, okay, I know that X is this. How did I end up with X? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I made the mistake. Well, I didn't make the mistake. The teacher did when I was in high school. And they asked me to show them how I solved the compound algebraic equation. So I took them literally and wrote the answer down, and then tried decompiling it. To say the least, they were a little confused on how I did it, so they wouldn't bring me back up to ask.
All right. So we're down to the end of the show, and been an awesome show as it always is. And I don't even have my schedule in front of me. What are we talking about next week, Corey?
Let's see here. We are actually going to talk about current abductions versus historical abductions.
All right, there you go.
The Hills versus, Travis Walton versus, the new.
Today.
That'll be good.
Yep. So historical versus current abductions. Excellent. Thank you, everyone, for being on the show. For everyone local that's listening, let's see, next Saturday we have our joint team meeting, which will cover White Noise Paranormal will be here. I believe UFO I team is trying to be here with Michael Hall. I can't remember the other team. I don't think Canadian Ghost Crew is going to be here. I don't think South Sound is going to be here, but it'll be a joint team meeting with about 2 or 3 other teams. So looking forward to it, and we'll see you all next week. And Corey, take us home.
Can do. All right, I would like to thank our panel tonight, Donna Cunningham, Bonnie Smith, and Brent Dodge from the Astral team. Also, R. Keith Andrews from ET Connection and Astrology and Alien Specialist. Also, Eric Markham, our FMP scientist. Join us next Saturday at midnight Pacific Standard Time as we talk about current abductions versus historical abductions. You can find us on Spreaker.com, SpacedOutRadio.com, and The Fringe FM. I would like to thank all of our listeners because without you, there is no S4. Good night, and remember, keep your eyes to the skies.
That's the sizzle of McDonald's new hotter and juicier 100% fresh beef Quarter Pounder burger. Sounds good, right? Hold up, you can't hear that mouth-watering sound or taste that beefy, melty, cheesy deliciousness until you order yours, because that's when they cook it. McDonald's new hotter and juicier Quarter Pounder burgers. So good, they'll leave you speechless.
Don't forget the fries. Now you can get 2 medium fries for just $4. Available at most restaurants in contiguous U.S. Not available in Alaska, Hawaii, and U.S. territories. Hotter and juicier compared to prior quarter-pound beef patty. Prices and participation may vary.